You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. Folks, what you're watching is a live shot from Baytown, Texas. This is the apartment complex where 2 years ago, Pamela Turner was gunned down by a Baytown police officer as she was, of course, having a significant issue. It was a case of schizophrenia where that police officer shot and killed her. Folks, of course, have been protesting here in Baytown for the last 2 years. That particular officer, a trial date is going to be set on May 25th, announcing when he is going to go to trial in the death of Pamela Turner. Folks, the video is shocking. It is stunning. I just want to give a trigger warning to anybody who has not seen the video. We're going to show it in a second, and you will see an unarmed black woman telling this police officer that she is pregnant. He cannot control her. He then steps back, fires 5 shots, killing her immediately. Watch this.
What the fuck?
I'm walking. I'm actually walking to my house. You actually harassed me.
It popped the head.
Folks, it is shocking and stunning every time we see that video. The officer knew she was a mentally disturbed woman who was having a breakdown. That is how he chose to contain the situation. 42 years old, Pamela Turner, shot dead. Today, 2 years ago, at this apartment complex that is across the street from us. The folks who were out here for the rally today, they wanted to, of course, honor her by raising attention. And, in fact, at one point, you can go back to the shot of the drone, at one point, at the end of the rally, Trey the Truth wanted to lead the people who assembled out here to the spot where she was shot and killed to say a prayer for her. But as you see the sign there, it says under new management, they made it perfectly clear that if anyone came on property, they would be arrested for trespassing, and they chose not to do so. Remember, more than a month ago, Ben Crump was on our show, and Ben Crump said they were having this rally. I told Ben Crump that we would be here to live stream this rally in support of him, and that's exactly what we did. Here is a roundup of what took place earlier today, noon Central, 1 p.m. Eastern, here in Baytown, Texas, where that rally was held just to seek justice for Pamela Turner.
We're within a rock throw of where her mother was executed, Marion told me.
Right across the street.
Vice President Michelle, I mean literally, right across the street.
Yep.
Said on her back, 5 times he shoots, hitting her in the face, in the chest, and in the stomach. And it's such a difficult thing.
I just want to thank everybody that came out. You know, it's very hard to do this here today across from where my mother was murdered. But I got to do it. And I just thank everyone for the support because I need it. My family needs it. And I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to try to act like if this is not hard, like it don't hurt, like I could just come out here and do this. No, I can't. All day yesterday, I'm supposed to be celebrating, you know. I'm 24, guys. I'm 24. And this is, you know, this is what I got to do for the rest of my life. And, you know, I'm coming to terms with it. I'm starting to be okay with it. Because no matter what, I know she would do it for me.
I just want to thank everybody that came out and supported us.
Today marked the 24 months since Pam was executed. It's really hard for me to stand here in this area because not just because of the 24 months that's, since she's been gone, but in 1993 when she graduated, that's where I was living in this apartment complex back here, and it was a different name, and that's where she lived. It was the first apartment that she lived in, and it was the last apartment that she lived in.
My Lord.
And it's very emotional and heartbreaking for me.
As I said, there were a number of people who spoke earlier today, including Tamika Mallory, Until Freedom, attorney Monique Presley, and others. Folks, let me know when we have sound of them. But not only that, you have the families of other African Americans who have died at the hands of police. Family members of Breonna Taylor were here. The father of Jacob Blake, he also spoke here today as well. He was very passionate, demanding and calling for Congress, especially President Joe Biden, to pass the George Floyd Justice Act. One of George Floyd's brothers was also at this rally as well, and so it was, and that's one of the things that we have seen, where the family members of individuals who have been impacted by violence, they've also spoken. To the folks in our control room, if y'all could just pull up, so it's us off. No, you can first, look, y'all can pull some stuff, and so just let me know when we have that. And so we're going to show some of that a little bit later. If y'all folks, if you actually want to see that particular rally, just simply go to our YouTube channel. We actually live streamed it earlier, so it's on our YouTube channel, and so you can actually check that out. And so there were some issues out here that we connected to the audio, but don't worry about it, folks. You still will be able to hear some of that. And so we wanted to be able to hear, to bring attention, because there are so many cases like this. There's so many cases like this that doesn't get attention, that people don't even hear about. In fact, while we were out here, there were people who literally were walking up to us. One brother was talking about a case of police abuse at the hands of police. Another woman came up to tell me about officers tasing her son 7 years ago. And the investigators, the medical examiner, ruled that his death was a homicide, and still no justice. That's one of the things that often happens when we cover these rallies, where you'll have family members who come out here and no one speaks for them. No one tells their story. In fact, the mother of Robbie Tolan was out here. Folks, y'all might remember that story. It happened in Bel Air, Texas. Bel Air is a city that's inside of the city of Houston. It is near the Galleria. Well, Robbie Tolan was a baseball player at Prairie View A&M University. He is the son of a former Major League Baseball player. Robbie Tolan and his friend were coming home, and as they were coming home, officers descended upon their home saying that the car was stolen. Tolan going to the front door, yelling and screaming for his parents. He was scared to death. Officer ends up shooting him. Tolan, baseball career over. He was paralyzed at that particular point. Later he recovered, but baseball career is over. Ben Crump spoke out here earlier. He said that was one of the few cases where it went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court ruled in the case of qualified immunity. And so his mother spoke, and she said when they went through their ordeal, she said the community did not rally behind us in Bel Air, Texas. And so there are people out there, and I hear this all the time from folks who will say, well, this is black porn, always seeing these shootings. But people need to understand, if you're out there critical of Ben Crump and critical of Tamika Mallory and critical of the people who are bringing attention to these shootings, what you should be asking yourself is, if one of your family members was shot and killed, would you want the community coming to your aid? The people who've actually lost sons and daughters to police violence, they're in a fraternity and sorority nobody wants to be a member of. But what we do hear from them is important, as they say, that somebody is speaking up for them. That's one of the reasons why they had that rally out here earlier today. I want to bring in my panel right now, Reese Colbert, Black Women Views. We have Dr. Greg Carr, Chair, Department of Afro-American Studies at Howard University. Amisha Cross, she's political analyst and Democratic strategist. Greg, I'll start with you. To that particular point, when you look at this thing from a historical perspective, African Americans who have been lynched, you've had black churches, pastors, community leaders raising attention, raising awareness. And there are a lot of people who today who criticize when they see the settlements, when they see lawyers flying on private jets, not realizing that there are celebrities who've actually loaned those jets to allow these attorneys to be able to go from city to city with these various court cases. The problem, Greg, is that there are so many cases. The problem is that Ben Crump is working on, at any given time, 20 and 30 different cases. And so it's always interesting to me to listen to the haters who cry about the people who are showing up at rallies, putting it on the front line, bringing attention to the names of Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, Akia Jones, and Ayanna Jones, and so many others, and not realizing that if it wasn't for this attention, many folks wouldn't have no idea of who these folks are, and justice would not be sought.
That's right, Roland. This is a symptom, not the underlying cause. Unfortunately, we live in a society where celebrity and platform are so deeply intertwined in this capitalist structure that it creates a situation where you have individuals who are trying to do good work, who are kind of magnified beyond that. I find it disgusting. In fact, the word today, that one of the words we should always be thinking about, is pressure. So there shouldn't be a Ben Crump. There should be lawyers. There should be an army of lawyers, local lawyers, regional lawyers, state level lawyers, who when these incidents of hunting, and that's what it is. In a moment, you'll talk about Georgia with Ahmaud Arbery and what happened in Atlanta. These paddle rollers, these devils, are hunting. And as they hunt, we should hunt back. And in order to hunt back effectively, there should not be Ben Crump shouldn't have to get on anything. Tamika shouldn't have to get on anything and travel anywhere where they don't hit the ground. And there's an army of local people who have already organized, who are already there to meet them. And I'm glad you mentioned the Tolan case, Robbie Tolan, and of course his father, Bobby. I'm just old enough to remember when Bobby Tolan was playing for the Cincinnati Reds in the early 70s. You know, those paddle rollers, that paddle roller executioner was actually charged by the Harris County prosecutor, your home county down there in Texas, and a paddle roller favorable jury let him go. And so I guess what I'm saying is finally that the fact that we have these handful of individuals who are so readily identifiable really doesn't have much to do with them. It has everything to do with the fact that our people need to, and here's the second word. The first is pressure, because it's the external pressure that brings anything to bear. The second word is organize. You hear that, lawyers? You hear that, lawyers? You need to put Ben Crump out of a job. And guess who would be the most relieved person in the world? Should he be relieved of crossing the country like that? I suspect his name might be Benjamin Crump.
Mm-hmm.
You know, on that particular point there, Amisha, one of the things that Reverend Dr. James Dixon said today. And again, if you look at this shot here, obviously it's an empty parking lot. But you had a couple of hundred people out here, and there were very few people from Baytown, Texas. And he talked about what happens in a lot of these cities, how people have been so beaten down and frustrated that it requires folks from outside to come in and help mobilize and organize. But to Greg's point, that's exactly what often happens, that it requires folks to come from other parts of the country to bring attention, but you should have the local organization, those things taking place, and not all cases become national. And what people have to understand is, even Trayvon Martin, people forget, I was in the middle of that. National media didn't jump on that.
Right.
We had to force them to do it. I was at CNN, and we were imploring them. We had to force them to do it, and it was social media. It was black media that was actually raising the attention before mainstream all of a sudden woke up. That's why we have to keep doing this.
You're absolutely correct, Roland. I think that there has to be an understanding that mainstream media does not respond to cases of crimes against Black people, particularly when they're crimes that the police have committed. And that only comes when we see this concerted effort amongst those on the ground to actually organize and get on social media and to raise a stink, to advocate in the communities, to march in the streets. Those are the type of things that get the national media attention. But there are dozens upon dozens of cases that will never get national media attention, and that does not make them any less important or any less egregious. This one in particular hits home for me because as a kid who had a schizophrenic mother who ended up being incarcerated due to her mental illness, due to her mental health, it disturbs me that in over 80% of cases, when it comes to Black people being arrested at the jail level, before they even are convicted of a crime, in large part it is because of a mental illness. Our police forces across the country are not equipped to handle mental health issues. And to know that someone lost their life due to the sheer fact that they had a verifiable mental illness is a real problem. And I think that we need to recognize that this happens in silos across the country, in rural areas and urban areas where police officers pull their gun first and they ask questions later. And if you're someone who is bipolar, if you're someone with schizophrenia, if you're someone who has anxiety disorders or anywhere on that spectrum, you are someone who has a target on your back. And it's frustrating because our system has yet to move beyond that point where mental illness is criminalized, and mental illness in many cases equals death. And I think that elevating this case to the importance that was needed 2+ years ago when it actually happened in Texas is something that is extremely important. But we also have to recognize that within our system, there is not a real push to ensure that those who have mental health issues are actually taken care of, that they are not criminalized for those mental health issues, that there are mental health clinics and other areas that actually reach them and can help them through this process, that doesn't treat them as if they are other, that doesn't treat them as if they are going to harm somebody else. What we know about mental health in this country is that in the majority of cases, they are more of a harm to themselves than they are anybody else ever. So I think that we really need to take into consideration how we treat the mentally ill across this country, particularly if that person who's suffering from mental illness looks like you or I.
That's right.
Rishi, one of the things that was talked about at the rally today, and Tamika Mallory and Monique talked about this, was the fact that in many cases, when Black women have been impacted in these shootings, you don't get the same attention, if you will, as others. And it was important for a number of these brothers to come out here and to stand for justice for Pamela Turner, because oftentimes you will see folks standing up when a Black man is killed, but not necessarily when a Black woman.
Absolutely. I mean, Malcolm X is the one who said the least protected woman in America is the Black woman. And I think it's important that we understand that Black women are victims of police brutality. It's not an oppression Olympics. It's not a competition. We all are vulnerable to this sort of excessive force and deadly force. And I think Amisha really hit the nail on the head when it comes to mental health. What's so disturbing in this situation is that we see over and over again where you have white people who have come in contact with the police, and sometimes they're using force against the police, whether it's their fists or whether it's, a weapon, and they come out of the situation alive. We have to make it such that police officers, look, you're the one who's trained for that. Okay, so they say Pamela Turner used the taser against him. But did you die? No. So how is a proportional response to a taser shooting somebody 4 times or multiple times? It's not a proportional response. Another thing, too, though, is a problem is the sense of urgency that these cops inject into these situations. If Pamela Turner had an outstanding warrant, and we've seen this in other cases where there was an outstanding warrant supposedly, do you have to resolve it at that exact moment? If somebody, as Amisha said, is having a mental episode, you know where this person lives, they're not a flight risk, why can't you de-escalate the situation and return to the situation at another time? It's like they have to, as Dr. Carr put it, hunt, and they have to get their prey in that exact moment. And there's no attempts whatsoever made to de-escalate, to return to the situation. The same thing happened with Rayshard Brooks that we're going to talk about later. So what if he took off running? He was unarmed, and you knew where the man lived. You knew where he was going. It wasn't a situation where you had to employ your weapon and kill. And that is a cultural issue and a racism issue as well, where cops are given license to try to, resolve every single warrant or every single traffic stop, no matter the consequence, even if it results in death. But as far as Black women goes, yeah, we need everybody to show up to Black women. That's why hashtag Say Her Name became a thing, because Black women are not as cared for when they are the victims.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.